new toy. It's another Android smartphone. Now, I'm quite happy with the Moto G, but I like to keep a spare phone because ultimately, you really need to have backup if you've got a smartphone, because if you drop it and smash it or something like that, then it's good to have a spare. And my spare was my old Cubot P6, and my brother damaged his phone, so he's now got my old Cubot P6, and because I prefer to have a spare phone, I went shopping online. I looked for a nice down-to-earth generic Chinese phone because I wanted to see how they're progressing. And having been really happy with the P6 before, I thought the Cubot P6, I thought I'd try another Cubot phone, and this is the Cubot H1. And it's a very odd and very impressive phone, actually. Now, the Cubot P6 and this Moto G have a 5-inch screen, and this is the 5.5-inch screen, and it's only half an inch bigger, but it makes a huge difference. But what really makes a difference is the fact that, as in the other Cubot phone, it's got the extra Android menu buttons in the bottom. And when I first got this Moto G, which does not have those buttons at the bottom, and it just decided to take a chunk off the bottom of the screen for those buttons, I thought that was really annoying. I mean, I know Motorola did it to save space because they got the 2 speakers in the front, but I have to say that I much prefer to have the 3 buttons at the bottom. So the H1 does have those buttons, so it gets definite points for that. The other thing about having the buttons on the screen is that, okay, they do disappear, like you're watching video and they'll disappear, but then suddenly you decide I want to go back, and you have to find a place on the screen to touch to bring those buttons up again that isn't going to actually link to somewhere else. So that was quite annoying. I like having these buttons, which are illuminated, by the way. I like having these buttons always available at the bottom of the screen. The resolution of this screen is the classic, it's fairly standard, 1280 by 720, and when I look at it, I can't see the pixels. When I looked at it through the magnifying glass, you can start seeing the pixels. Now, it's the same resolution as the Moto G, so technically speaking the pixels on this one are just a tiny bit bigger, but again, I can't see pixels. As far as I'm concerned, it's absolutely high resolution. It's a good screen. And talking about the good screen, the original P6 had a viewing angle thing that, when you, let's actually unlock this and bring a nice image up, or that'll do. This one, as you can see, the viewing angle is good all the way around. That makes a big difference, because if the viewing angle is not good and you're looking at a video, you get that slight psychedelic effect that one eye is getting a darker image than the other. This one has a very good display. It's called an IPS OGS, in-plane switching, I think that stands for. I'm not sure what the OGS stands for. Another good thing, just like the Cubot P6, it's got a very bright display. In fact, this display is currently set to half intensity, and that's where I like it. And the good thing about that is that it's capable of going brighter if you need it, but because you're not running it anywhere near its full intensity, the light source that illuminates this, which I'm guessing is edge-lit LED, is going to last a lot longer because it's not really getting, pushed too hard. Now, this one, I got this on eBay, and I got it from TomTop. I looked at various sources, but TomTop, I'm quite familiar with TomTop. I bought lots of stuff from them in the past, so I thought, I could have got it from their store, but I just thought, eBay just offers that little bit extra protection. So this one, that's where I got this one from. I'll put a link to the listing I got it from down below. Now, as with most of the Chinese phones, because it's a very generic Chinese phone, and because it's so generic, the Chinese absolutely adore their big screen smartphones. So obviously, they've really standardised the chipset. So this thing uses a MediaTek controller, which is no great surprise, and it uses a quad-core processor running at 1 GHz, a 64-bit processor. I should have checked what's in this one. I ran the Antutu bench test, and this one, apart from the fact that when I'm using it, it's visibly just a little bit slicker, it beat the Moto G. by a modest degree. They were fairly close, but the Cubot H1 won over the Moto G. The battery in this is removable. I like that. The Moto G, that's a disappointing feature. The battery is not removable, it's built in. I like the fact that if you have a little incident with your smartphone, you can just rip the back off and get the battery out of it and minimise the damage. You can't do that with things like the iPhones or this Moto G or whatever, the other phones that have it all sealed in. And that, ultimately, to me, that just runs the risk of, you know, I'd just rather be able to take the battery out. I just think you should be able to change batteries and stuff. The battery is huge. It's rated 5,200 milliamp hours, and this thing lasts a long time in one charge. And when you want to charge it up, it comes with a charger. It looks like a generic Chinese charger, but this one's rated for 2 amp output, and the charging lead is actually thicker than the iPad's charging lead. It's really beefy. And I tested the current it charges at, and it charged on the Matek tester. It charged at about 1.5 amps. And they do tout that as one of the features. They say, you know, a 30-minute charge will pretty much get you through the day. Or if you really need it just for a really burst of use that the battery's completely flat, even 10 minutes, you know, plug it into charge, go and have a cup of tea, and then you can use it again. So that's quite a good feature, really. It's got on the go, which is the fact that you can plug stuff into the USB port, which the charging port is actually in the top in this one, which is quite odd. All the other ones I'm pretty sure has been at the bottom. I can't honestly remember where all the charging ports and the phones are. But it's got on the go. I've not tried that yet, which means you can plug things into it, like keyboards and mice or whatever you want. I don't know. I've never really used on the go, but it means you can use peripherals with it and it will power them. And bizarrely, on Cubot's website, it actually shows one of these phones charging another phone. It's actually using it as a power bank, which is odd. I suppose that's also quite useful, that you could charge stuff with it. It's dual SIM, as most of these are, and this Moto G is also dual SIM, but the Chinese, for some reason, all their phones are dual SIM. And what that means is you can have 2 SIMs, as I have, because I spend a lot of time in the Isle of Man, and I'm on the Manx network, so it goes in one slot. And I spend a modest amount of time in the UK, and I've still got my old UK number, so it goes in another slot. And what actually happens there is that if someone phones you on either of those SIMs, it'll answer. You know, you can answer it as if, you know, that SIM is that phone, so to speak. And in the meantime, the other SIM is temporarily just locked out during that call. And then as soon as the call's finished, it enables the other SIM again. And it basically means that you only need one phone for 2 different providers, which is jolly useful. It's a very useful feature indeed. This phone is also 4G. It's the first 4G phone I've had. And I'm not a super heavy user of data outdoors. The most I'm like to use it for is things like Facebook and stuff like that. But I did a wee test. I turned off the Wi-Fi on it. And the download speed here, we're just actually getting 4G here. And I found a 4G network, and the download speed was 30 megabits, and the upload speed was 10 megabits, which is actually pretty damn fast. That's for compared to my wired connection, my broadband connection, that's really fast. It's got some odd features. Let's talk about the camera first. It's got the camera on the back and the camera in the front. The camera in the front is apparently 8 megapixel, and the camera in the back is 13 megapixel. And they do take good pictures. I've been out trying it out, and the focus is fast. And interesting, when you do video, it seems to focus and then lock, which is a big improvement, because one of the things I didn't like about the video in this, and I just could not disable it, was trying to get that focus lock activated so it didn't keep, you know, focusing every time you moved your hands. So that's a welcome improvement in the cameras here. Let me think. There is a quirk. There's one thing that I don't care so much for with this phone, And that is when you're recording video, it seems to have a problem with my boomy voice. I think maybe it's pushing the gain up deliberately quite high, and it almost slightly distorts in a sort of like warbly sort of digital processing type way. And it's not the microphone, because if I fire up the audio recorder and record and even shout at the phone, it records absolutely fine with a good rich frequency response. But the camera recording, I don't know if it's a software thing or something like that, but it has that slight modulation effect, which is, you know, it's the only niggle I can really find with this. That said, I did notice that if you go into the phone and you go to the settings and you go to About Phone, it does have an update button that's active, and it says check for updates. So that might suggest that for the first time a Chinese phone that I've owned is actually, well, a generic Chinese brand, is actually going to have firmware updates, which is a step forward. Oh yeah, that's really important. When you stick your two SIMs in, the Cubot's handling of the SIMs, because the Chinese always have these dual SIM phones, the handling of the SIMs is very good. If you change the SIMs, if you shuffle them about, if you stick a new SIM in, it automatically detects it, and before doing anything, it asks you what you want to do with it. The Moto G didn't do that. The Moto G, actually I had to hunt around to actually find what SIM was doing what and then try and change the settings. I thought Motorola's implementation of that was pretty poor, if I have to be honest. It's their first dual SIM phone, so that could be maybe understood, but this one, much like the Cubot P6, does it sensibly. A little icon appears at the top and you flick it down, it says go straight to the SIM settings, and it tells you exactly which is doing which. Now, the Moto G, as I say, it didn't do that, and actually connected to the data network on a roaming SIM, which was really annoying. But yeah, so the Chinese phones win over that. So for the technical specs, I have noted some technical specs down here. It is using the classic MediaTek processor, not processor, it's a control chip, MediaTek MT6735. It's using a quad-core Cortex processor, A53, running at 1 GHz, 2 GB of RAM, built-in 16 GB of memory. I didn't realise it was actually that much until I checked this up. But you can, of course, stick the SD card and add another 32 GB. It's got a big fat battery. It's got the display, we'll look at the battery in a moment. The resolution of the display is 1280 by 720, and the Antutu score, which I've written as Antutu for some odd reason, is 20213, which is middle of the road. It's pretty good actually. It's okay. It's not going to be up there with the £600 or £800 phones, but then this phone only costs £100, so that should be, you know, I wouldn't expect it to be. The Moto G came down at 18,691, which is still respectable, but just that wee bit slower. So let's take the back off this. I'm actually going to turn it off to do this, because we'll take the battery out and I'll show you the size of the battery and all the slots in the back. So power off. Okay. It does its little Cubot screen. And powers off. This also came with a plastic case around the outside, the sort of sleeve, which is good. I like that. And it also came with a screen protector fitted and a spare screen protector, which may actually be a matte finish. That was one of my niggles about the P6. I couldn't find one of these big rubbery cases, because I like my phones to be drop proof. Because, you know, if you're using them in an engineering or work environment, then they're going to get bumped about, and you know, in the past I've broken so much stuff at work, it's just ridiculous. So rubbery cases are good. This is a start, but to be honest, I'm hoping that the H1 really takes off, and they do bring out rugged cases like this for it, which they add a fair amount of size to it, but I don't care. I don't care about this size as long as it's got the protection. I want to be able to accidentally drop it or bump it and not have it damaged. But this is a start. This is fine for the moment. So getting the cover off this, it's got a little slot somewhere, has it not? Yes, there it has. So you pop the back off it, as is so common this type of thing. The sound, incidentally, from the speaker isn't as good as the Moto G, but it is loud, and it's unfair to compare it to the Moto G because that's one of the main features of the Moto G, is these big speakers in the front that, you know, face forwards, and it is a loud, boomy phone. Embarrassing when you when it goes, you know, when you click a link in Facebook in public and then it comes on at full volume in a cafe. It's like, oh god. So the battery is huge. It's a really big battery. And you can take it out. Bonus. It's got the slot for the memory card, the SD card, and it's got the double SIM slot. It takes a standard size SIM, which I've had to put an adapter because this took 2 micro SIMs, and it also underneath it takes the micro SIM underneath. Yes. There's the wee infrared emitter there. The headphone jack, the charging socket. Nothing in the bottom other than the microphone. The glass also is curved at the edge. It's just it's not a sharp edge glass. It actually is beveled at the edge. Okay, so what about the charger? It comes with a charger, the 2 amp charger, and this fairly fat charging lead, which is justifiable because it can be charged quite quickly. It'd be rude of me not to open this, isn't it? I think we should open this. I'm not going to blow this one up, obviously. Oh, they're not Phillips screws or Posi. They're Torx. One moment. I'm going to have to get the monster set in here. Is it going to be that one? Nicely designed case that you can't get the screwdriver bits out of. Nope. Is it going to be that one? Yep. Is it? Maybe it's not. Is it going to be that one? Oh, that's better. Ooh, what's it going to be like inside? Is it going to be classic Chinese? Or is it going to be better? I think, given the quality of the phone, I'm hoping for a better charger, but the only way to find out is to actually look inside. This should be interesting. Ooh, that's in quite tight. Do I have pliers here? Oh, there we go. Oh, it was glued. Okay, what do we have? Oh, look at the anti-tracking gap. That is a big clearance. The mains is coming in. I'm guessing that's a fuse in the sleeving there. Fusible. It says F1 if it's a fuse. Good, notable clearance actually between the live sections here. It's got a bridge rectifier down here on the back, surface mount bridge rectifier. Actually, I'm just going to jump. I do see there's 2 capacitors here, and there is a choke there for filtering. And another little surface mount L2, tiny little surface mount choke there between the capacitors. So double filtering on the input. There's a chip well hidden under blobs of the sort of silicon-y stuff. I can only read some of the numbers off it. I'm not going to start picking this off. OB253 something. Probably a fairly standard generic switching chip. I don't see any feedback. I don't see an opto-isolator. I do see the RF suppressed capacitor. The windings, that's quite odd. The windings on the output seem to be that heavier insulation. And also there's a little standoff comes right out from the transformer here with the other winding on it. Is that what that is? it does appear to be something, it does actually appear to be some sort of little extension of the transformer. So this may actually be quite a well-isolated transformer. It's got a big fat rectifying diode and a little electrolytic here. And there's really not a huge amount else in the back. That actually, you know, it actually looks like it's a decent enough power supply. It certainly looks as though they made an effort to, and they've also got the little spark gap type arrangement across the back as well. That's quite interesting. Yeah, it looks like they've actually made an effort with the power supply. That's quite good to know. I might actually have the confidence to plug my phone into charge into that. And definitely this lead is much thicker. It seems odd that it's such a beefy lead, but then again, if it's going to charge anywhere near 2 amps, that's not surprising again. So yeah, this was supposed to be my spare phone. But you know what? Having used it for about a week, I think my Moto G is about to become the spare phone. And this is going to become my main phone because it is actually really, really good. Now, I should explain that I prefer to buy the phones because when my first smartphone was a HTC One. And I put it through the washing machine and it was in contract, and that meant, you know, I had to keep paying. I really ruined it. And at that point I just suddenly realised that buying smartphones, getting them as part of a contract, getting tied in for 2 years is not a great idea. I prefer to buy them outright. The first phone I bought after that, I was feeling really quite sore about the fact I'd put that one through the washing machine. And the reason I put it through the washing machine because the smartphones are so much bigger that I put it in I put it in the ruler pocket at that time because it fitted in the ruler pocket of my work pants. And I checked every pocket but that pocket and then stuck it in the washing machine, went to look for the phone, and that horrible realisation that it's currently being washed. The next phone was a ZTE Racer because I was a bit sore about knackering my phone and still being in contract. And it was a small phone, but it had the resistive touchscreen, which I had no problem with that. It wasn't super slick, but it was a cheap generic phone, and it just made me feel a bit better about, you know, if I put it through the washing machine again, which I did. But the ZTE Racer was repairable. Then I went on to the Moto G, which is waterproof, completely waterproof. Not Moto G, this is the Motorola Defy, and you look at the screen size now and it's tiny. If I go back to this, it would be like, it looks like a toy. It's too small to actually even use. But the nice thing about this, it was really impact proof. It had the covers over the charging ports. If I'd ever put it through the washing machine, which I didn't, it would have survived because there's loads of videos of the Motorola Defy being used underwater. After the Motorola Defy, it was starting to get a wee bit too small because as Android develops the screen, you know, you have to get a bigger screen. It's bigger screen is the way to go. So my first experimental see how they're like was the Cubot P6 bought on Amazon at that point in time. And I was just blown away by the Cubot P6. I thought it was great. And latterly I moved on to the Moto G because the Moto G had a lot more of the bump-resistant covers available for it. And I just wanted to have, you know, at least one phone as a backup. And now that the Cubot P6 is over at my brother's place, I say this was supposed to be the backup. It's not. This is going to be the main phone. This is going to be the backup now. But haven't evolved really quickly. So yeah, go big. Get a nice chunky engineering phone because these tablet phones are just like, they're, you know, the way to go for. You know, it's good being able to get data sheets. Even, see if you've got one as a spare phone, you can connect to Wi-Fi. If you don't put a SIM in it, it will just be a Wi-Fi tablet. And it means you can still use it for beside your phone for just calling up data sheets and stuff like that. It's almost like a manifestation of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's that little pocket computer. But yeah, I'm really, really pleased with this one. It's a very good phone. Really fantastic. I really like it.